Welcome everybody to this complete and in-depth tutorial on Xpaths, in which we will learn how to create Xpaths on the most basic level to the most advanced level there is. In this tutorial, we'll first learn how to create your basic Xpaths, followed by Xpath with various conditions. After we have learned the basics, we will then go to the advanced level, which basically means Xpath which contains functions. After we have learned all the XPath with functions, we will then go ahead even further and learn XPath with access. Guys, at the end of this tutorial, you'll not only be able to understand but also create various high-level programmatic XPaths with ease. XPath like these ones can easily be created with you with ease. Guys, if you are an automation programmer, creating XPaths should be your primary skill. Also note that this entire session will be tool independent. Having said that, for those who are using Selenium with Java, you have to put your XPath in these places right here, such as driver, find element by XPath, and place your XPath right here. For those who are using Selenium with Python, the steps will be pretty much the same, which is driver.find element by XPath and paste your XPath right here. The similar steps will be also performed in UFT or any other programming tool there is. Guys, note that yes, the tool and the methods might differ, but the XPaths here will remain the same. Having said that, let us begin our very first basic XPath session. Let us now start creating XPaths by using a sample application in our Chrome browser. The URL of this application I will be giving in the description below, so you all can code along with me. Note that you can perform this exact same thing even in your Firefox browser, but for now we'll focus on the Chrome browser. Now with that said, press F12. That will bring up the developer console. Use your inspect tool and inspect on this element right here, which is unique ID. Now note that this application is created by me so that you all will be able to practice XPath from the very basics till your advanced level, which is below. Now this particular element which we have inspected has got an ID called as ID1. We are now going to identify this element by using XPaths with the help of its ID. So step number 1, click anywhere inside of your console and press Ctrl F. That should bring up this text box right here. This text box is used to execute your XPath or your CSS. The CSS session we will be looking into in our next session. Now with that said, press double forward slashes to start your XPath, followed by a star, and then you give your square brackets like this. Now we are going to identify a particular element with the help of its ID, right? So type in @ID followed by equal to, and inside your single quotes you type in the ID. Now if you look at the particular element, you would see that the ID is equal to ID1. So let us copy that and paste it inside of our single quotes. Now as you can see here, the element here is highlighted in yellow, which means our XPath is working. The other way to find out this is by looking at the right hand side corner, and as you can see 1 of 1, this basically means your XPath is identifying the element uniquely. Now with that said, you can either give single quotes, a double quote will also do, but as a standard practice it is better to give single quotes. Let us perform the exact same thing in your Firefox browser as well. So let me copy this XPath, go to Firefox browser, press F12. That should bring up the developer consoles, and right here in your search, just paste in your XPath and hit enter. That will execute your XPath, and as you can see here 1 of 1, and if you hover over the particular element, you would see the element is highlighted in your application as well. Now going forward, we will be mostly focusing on your Chrome browser and not on your Firefox browser. Let us now go ahead and create a similar XPath for your other two elements as well, which is unique by name and unique by value. So if I just expand this, you would see the other two elements right here. So this is the other one which is having a unique name, and this is the one having a unique value. Now note that your element starts over here and ends over here, and everything inside are basically your attributes. So ID here is an attribute, name here is an attribute, value is an attribute. Basically anything inside of your tags is an attribute. So we are basically uniquely identifying your first element by using the ID. We will now change this for our second element by using the name. So at the rate name is equal to your name1, and as you can see that works as well. In the third example we will now do at the rate value is equal to value1, and as you can see that works as well. So with this we will now learn a very basic XPath syntax, which is like this. So at the start of an XPath you basically give your double forward slashes, which basically means finding an element anywhere in your HTML page. We will then give we'll then give a star followed by at the rate attribute. So your attribute, as I said, it can be anything at all which is inside of your brackets, and then we set it equal to a particular value. Note that the value will always be in single or double quotes, and this entire XPath will be put inside of your square brackets. This is the basic syntax of an XPath. We will now encounter our very first issue when using this particular syntax. So let me open up Chrome and let us now try to identify your next two elements, which is element 1 and element 2, which is basically these two elements, as you can see. The problem here is these two elements have got a class, but the value of your classes is basically the same for both of my elements. So if I were to copy at the rate class is equal to class1, you notice that at the right hand side you would see one of two elements. So if I press one of these arrows, it will basically navigate to the other element. So this is your second element, this is your first element. So your XPath is not able to identify something uniquely. So how do we take care of this issue? Now as you can see in both of these elements, your tag is different. For your very first element, your tag is a p tag or your paragraph tag, and for your element 2, it is a div tag. So you can specify your tags instead of your star. So star basically means any tag. So when you put star, it will search any element having the attribute called class, which is equal to class1. But if you specify the tag like the tag p having the class1, it will point to only one element right here. And if I were to change this tag to div, it will then point to the second element right here. So the syntax will change like this. Instead of giving your star, you can also give your tag to specifically say that you want a particular XPath having a particular tag and the necessary condition inside of it. Let us now look at a different problem in XPath and learn how to solve that as well. So open up your application, and when you scroll down, you will be able to view these four elements right here. Now all of these four elements are present in your HTML right here. Now all of them have got your p tag and none of them have got a common attribute. Example, your very first and second element has got a common name. Your third and fourth also has got a common name b. Same way if you look at the ID is common between your first and third as well as your second and fourth. So if I were to identify this by using, let's say, the name, so let me just zoom in here. So double slash means anywhere in the web page. I'm identifying an element having a p tag and having the name attribute equal to the value a. And as you can see, I'm identifying two different elements. Now this can easily be resolved by uniquely identifying an element with the help of the name as well as the ID. Basically, I'm combining two different attributes together. You can do this by using the AND operator. So simply type in your first attribute or your first condition, and then you type in A and D and then you give your other attribute, which is at the rate ID is equal to A. This basically means that I'm finding any any element having a p tag which has the attributes name is equal to A and ID is equal to A. And as you can see, it is uniquely identified. If I change the ID from A to B, as you can see, it now points to the second element, which works as well. It is not just the AND operator, you can also perform your OR operator as well. So in this case, it is it is identifying three different elements. Why? Because it is any element having the name is equal to A, which is basically two different elements, or having the ID is equal to B. Now, with that said, it is not just two attributes. You can combine more than two as well. So name is equal to A or ID is equal to B, and or you can also put an OR condition here and give your third attribute as well, and that will work just fine. Now this can get a bit confusing, so what you can do is you can put a parenthesis to separate the two and make things a bit easier. So this brings us to our next syntax in Xpath, which is if you have two or more than two conditions or attributes, you can give an AND condition so that they both should match in order for the element to be uniquely identified. You can also give the OR condition or combine more than one conditions with the help of your parentheses. So far we have learned how to identify a particular element by using the attributes. We can also do this by using the text as well. Example, let me open up the application again and let me take any element right here. Example, this one which has got the unique ID. So if I spy on it, you would see that it has got the text called as unique ID. And if I were to copy the particular text, I can easily identify this in the following manner. So any element having the p tag, give your square brackets, but this time do not give @ because @ is used to specify an attribute. You simply have to do text and your parentheses. This basically is a function in Xpath which returns the text of any element in your web page. So this Xpath right here means I'm finding any element in my web page which basically has my p tag and has got a text. I can then say the text is equal to a particular value, which is this one right here, unique ID. And as you can see that you are getting one of one element, or it is uniquely identified. In this case, if it was not uniquely identified, you could have combined this again by using your AND or your OR operator and combining it with an attribute, and that would work fine. For example, @ID is equal to ID1, and as you see it is still found because that works as well. Let us now look at a different problem where your child or your parent is unique and you want to find the other. So what do I mean by this? So let me open up the application again, and if you scroll down you will be able to view a text called as when your child is unique. So just spy on the particular link and you will know what I mean. So in this particular case, you want to identify the particular anchor tag uniquely, but as you can see, it does not have any unique attribute. But the child here has got a unique attribute which is ID is equal to link. So what do I mean by a child? As you can see, this is an anchor tag and there is an arrow right here. So the moment I expand the arrow, as you can see, the span is basically inside of this particular tag, and therefore span is a child of the anchor tag, or in other words, the anchor tag is a parent of span. You can say it either ways. So in this particular example, let me just zoom in here. Okay, let me again identify this. So in this example, we will try to identify an anchor tag by using the child. So step number one is identifying this particular span tag, span element here. So span having ID is equal to link. So let me copy the attribute link. So /span your square brackets @ID is equal to link. And in this way you have identified the child uniquely. Now to identify the parent, you only have to do a / followed by two dots. In this way you're traversing from the child to the parent. In this way we have identified the parent uniquely. Now you can perform this once, you can perform this twice as well. In this case it'll go from the parent to the parent, and if you keep doing this over and over again, you might basically reach the head or the HTML tag as well. So with that said, we look at the other example where your parent is unique but the child is not. So in this example, let's say I want to enter text in this text box, and as you can see, this text box does not have any unique attribute, but the parent here, which is div, has got a unique attribute which is id is equal to div a. So again, step number one would be uniquely identifying the parent. In this case, it is div having the id div a. So let me make a few changes. Instead of span, it is going to be a div having the id is equal to div a. And now to traverse from the parent to the child, you only have to do a forward slash and a star. Star basically means, again, as we have learned earlier, it means any tag whatsoever which is a parent, sorry, which is a child of this element right here. But guys, in my experience, it is not a good habit to give star. Try to be more specific to make your XPaths more robust. So here I would encourage you to use the tag which you can see in the console below. So here I'll give input. So this is more robust. Again, even in div you can give a star, but I again prefer not to give stars for your tags, but to give the tags themselves. Now looking much more in depth in this example, if you take this one right here, which is id is equal to div c, you see that inside div you have a span, and inside of the span you have an input. So it is not directly the child, but you can say is the descendant. So how to handle this? So one way to handle this is, so div having the id has div c. Inside of this you basically have a span, and inside of the span you have an input. So in this way you can not only traverse to the child but to the child's child as well, which basically means you're going to the descendant. An easier way to take care of this is basically giving a double slash. So whenever in HTML you give a double slash, or sorry, whenever in XPath you give a double slash, it basically means anywhere inside. Now your first double slash does not have anything before it, so it means anywhere inside of your HTML page. But if you're doing double forward slash over here, it basically means inside of this element right here, or basically anywhere inside. So you do not need to give slash span slash input. You can just give double forward slash input, and that will work just fine. So in this way we have learned that by giving two double dots we are traversing to the parent, and by giving slash and then you giving your tag, you basically are going to the child. We will now look at the next topic, which is identification with the help of the indexes. Now this should only be used when none other identification technique works. So let us look at an example from before in which we had two elements having the same attribute, which is your name is equal to A. So let me just do that, double forward slash paragraph with @name is equal to the value A. And as you can see, I'm getting two elements right here. This is the first and this is the second. Now in order for me to identify the very first element, I can easily do that by giving the indexes. The first element can be found by using a square brackets and giving the value 1, and the second as simple by giving the value 2. Now that said, there is a major issue here which very few actually know, and that is this. When you're giving indexes, these indexes basically specify the child. So what I mean is, this element here is a second child to its parent, and this here, sorry, this is the first child and this is the second child of the parent. Now this might be a bit difficult to understand, so let us look at a different example, which is this one right here. Now div here has only one child called label1, and the next div has got only one child called as label2. So there are two labels over here, okay, and each one is a first child of its parent. So in the exact same manner, if I were to find double forward slash label having at the rate id is equal to this label right here, you'd see that I'm getting three elements, right? But in this case, if I do give the index as 1, I can still view three elements only. Why is that? Because all of my three elements are my first child of the parent div. So index is a bit complicated. Just because you see three elements over here, that does not mean that the very first will mean your first and then second will mean second. It does not work like that. So in this case, if I give 2, you'll basically get 0 because you do not have any label which is your second child. So in this case, how are you going to work around? To do a workaround, you simply have to encapsulate the entire element in a bracket. This basically means this entire element is present in the web page 3 times, and then you give your square brackets with the value 1, with the value 2, and with the value 3. We remove this, come back here. A quick note guys, all of the XPaths that we have written till now are starting with a double forward slash. This means that it is a relative XPath, or in other words, we are searching for the particular element anywhere inside of your web page. The opposite of this is an absolute XPath. This is something which I will never recommend anyone to use, but for the sake of interviews and knowledge, let me tell you what that is. So you open up your Chrome browser and choose any element. For example, let me inspect on this button. Right click on the particular button, and you can get this created automatically for you by choosing the option called as copy your full XPath. And let me paste it right here. Now, as you can see, this XPath here is pretty long, right? And if you look at it very clearly, and if you go towards the left, you will see that it is basically starting from HTML, and then it goes towards the body, and then div, and then div. Basically, we are going through each and every element from the page, all the way from your HTML till the element that we are looking for. So this element here is a span. If I remove out the span, you can see the span's parent, which is your div. If I go one level back, it's a button. And if I keep on going back all the way till the end, what we basically reach is, we scroll on top, we will be reaching the HTML itself. So this here guys is an example of your absolute XPath, and as you can see, it is pretty long. And if any element in here changes, that is, you have got so many elements here in your entire XPath, if any element changes, your XPath will also change. So do not use your absolute XPath. Please stick to your relative XPaths only. So guys, for those who are watching the video till this particular point, a bonus for y'all, we'll look at a very advanced topic in XPaths, which is identification of an element by using another element as an attribute. So what do I mean by this? Now, if you look at any examples in XPaths, your attributes of an element are basically attributes itself. But it need not be an attribute. You can also give a different element as well. Let us take the previous example of the link. Now in the link, the parent was not unique, but the child was unique. So in this case, I can identify the parent by giving the child as an attribute. Now it might seem complicated, but it is not. So step number 1 is uniquely identifying the child here. So this is a span having the ID link, right? So let me write this pretty quick. So double forward slash span having the ID is equal to link. Here we go. So our child is identified uniquely. Now let me just copy this span here and remove this. Now next is I want to identify this link here. So this is a link. So this here is a link. So it's an anchor tag. So double forward slash a, and then you give your square brackets. But this time, instead of giving attributes, you paste in the element itself. So in this way, as you can see, the element is uniquely identified. So here I'm trying to identify an anchor tag having an attribute which is the child of that particular element itself, which is this one right here. Now this is a bit advanced, but it is good to know this because you might have your seniors or your colleagues implementing this and you'll be like, hey, what's up? This is something which I do not know. The other thing is, if your span here is not directly the child but it's a descendant, for example a, in that you have a span, in that you have something else, you can do that as well by simply performing a dot and then your double forward slashes. The dot here is very important. The dot specifies that you are searching directly inside of your anchor tag. If you do not give a dot, it will basically search in your entire HTML page. Okay guys, since this video is becoming pretty long, I will be making a part 2. The link of it I will be giving in the description below. So you can watch that, in which I'll cover the other topics like your functions in XPath, as well as what are your XPath accesses. Okay, that said, if you like my series on Selenium and XPath, you can show your support by liking and sharing this video and subscribing to my channel. If you have any questions whatsoever, do feel free to post a comment below and I'll come and help you out. Thank you all for watching.